Meghan Markle just made her boldest move yet. On camera, she said 5 words that flipped the royal narrative, and the internet can't stop talking. Number 1, the unexpected interview drop. It started quietly. No promo blitz, no royal fanfare. Just a casual appearance on the New York Times Dealbook Summit. Meghan Markle, in a simple outfit, no crown, no titles, just her voice. She wasn't there to defend herself. She was there to make something clear. She's not disappearing. The interview came as a surprise for many who assumed Meghan had gone into hiding. After months of silence and media speculation about her brand, her marriage, and whether she still had influence, this reappearance wasn't just symbolic. It was strategic. Sitting across from a seasoned journalist, Meghan was calm, but firm. She didn't dodge questions. She leaned into them, especially when asked why she chose to return to the spotlight after the noise surrounding the royal split had mostly settled. Her answer was surprisingly grounded. "I've been working since I was 13, she said. "I've always wanted to be independent. No frills, no drama, just facts." But those facts hit harder than people expected. She wasn't just talking about podcast deals or lifestyle brands. She was talking about survival, about carving out a future for herself, her husband, and their children in a world that judged her at every step. And that's when the internet lit up. For some, it was empowering. A woman who had been picked apart by tabloids, institutions, and even family members, finally standing tall again. For others, it was an invitation to reignite criticism. The same headlines that once painted her as a disruptor of royal tradition were back. This time accusing her of playing the victim while living in a multi-million-dollar mansion. But something felt different. This wasn't a PR tour. It wasn't damage control. Meghan didn't seem interested in changing anyone's mind. She simply wanted to be heard. Her message wasn't loud, it was focused. And that quiet clarity hit deeper than a press release ever could. The emotional shift was palpable. One moment, she's reflecting on the pressure of public life. The next, she's confidently laying out her plans to build something new. A company, a podcast, a brand, maybe even a movement. She wasn't asking for approval, she was claiming space. And just when people began to settle into the idea that Meghan was entering a softer, calmer era, she said something that sent shockwaves through the room. "I need to work." 5 words. No apology. No explanation. But everything was about to change. Number 2, why she needs to work. It wasn't just what Meghan said, it was how she said it. "I need to work," she declared, with the kind of calm confidence that made everyone stop and ask, "Wait, why?" This was a duchess, a former royal, a woman married into one of the most powerful families on earth. On paper, she didn't need anything. But Meghan wasn't speaking from a place of wealth or status. She was speaking from something far more personal: identity. From the age of 13, Meghan had been working. She wasn't handed a silver spoon. She was raised by a single mother who taught her the value of hustle, self-respect, and independence. Long before royal titles or red carpets, she was bagging groceries, auditioning for small roles, and finding her way in a world that didn't offer shortcuts. Working wasn't just about income, it was about purpose. And that purpose didn't vanish when she married into royalty. If anything, it became harder to hold on to. Imagine being known for your last name more than your first, for your husband's lineage rather than your own legacy. Meghan had spent years building a career, only to be told, subtly and sometimes not so subtly, that her job now was to smile, wave, and stay quiet. For someone who had always thrived through expression, that silence was suffocating. And now, for the first time since stepping back from royal duties, Meghan was peeling back the curtain, not to attack the monarchy, but to reclaim herself. She explained that her desire to work isn't about money, attention, or control. It's about stability. It's about showing her children, Archie and Lilibet, that their mother doesn't just exist in the background of someone else's story. She's writing her own. It was a moment that felt deeply human, especially to working moms, immigrants, and women who've had to prove themselves twice just to be seen once. But not everyone saw it that way. Critics called it performative. They argued that true independence didn't come from launching jam brands or guesting on high-profile podcasts. Some even accused her of romanticizing the struggle while living a life of luxury. And just like that, the divide grew deeper. Was Meghan relatable or completely out of touch? Still, she didn't flinch. She doubled down. She said her work connects her to her past, grounds her in her present, and gives her kids something to admire beyond palaces and press coverage. But just when it seemed like her message might break through the noise, a wave of backlash came crashing in, louder, sharper, and more relentless than before. Number 3, the public savage backlash. At first, it seemed like Meghan Markle's return to the spotlight might be met with support, or at least curiosity. But as soon as clips from her interview began to circulate online, the mood shifted. What started as a personal reflection quickly became internet ammunition. Her 5 words, "I need to work," were ripped from their context, plastered on headlines, and spun into a brand new storm. The backlash wasn't just loud, it was surgical. Social media lit up with mocking tweets, stitched TikToks, and YouTube reactions accusing Meghan of playing the victim again. Some users pointed to her multi-million-dollar Montecito mansion, designer outfits, and celebrity circle as evidence that she was out of touch. "She needs to work. Really?" One viral post scoffed. "Some of us are working 3 jobs and still can't afford rent." Others went even further, accusing her of using feminism and motherhood as a shield against accountability. Her business ventures, like the upcoming lifestyle brand and rumored cooking series, were painted as opportunistic cash grabs. The narrative forming wasn't subtle. Meghan wasn't working because she had to. She was working because she wanted the spotlight back. And that's where it hurt most. Because for Meghan, this wasn't about being famous. It was about being seen. For years, she'd been dissected in tabloids and gossiped about in headlines she never approved. Every move, every silence, every outfit was interpreted as a statement. So when she finally spoke up, on her own terms, it was meant to be her reclaiming control. Instead, it triggered one of the most intense public draggings she's experienced since leaving the UK. The emotional toll of the backlash was hard to ignore, even from the outside. For every supporter cheering her on, there were thousands ready to dismiss her entirely. It wasn't just criticism, it was character assassination. And it struck a nerve not just with Meghan, but with anyone who's ever dared to outgrow the box the world put them in. Still, Meghan didn't respond directly to the criticism. No angry posts. No interviews firing back. She stayed quiet again. But this time, the silence didn't feel like retreat. It felt like strategy. Because while the world was busy mocking her soundbite, Meghan was already working on her next move. And what she did next? It would spark even more questions, especially about whether this was all part of a master plan or a slow unraveling. Number 4, Netflix hit or miss. The backlash was still echoing when Meghan's next chapter quietly dropped. A Netflix show, with Love, Meghan, was rumored, teased, and then suddenly real. But this wasn't a scandal-fueled tell-all. It was gentle, polished, a lifestyle series built around warmth, celebration, and personal taste. Think jam jars, garden tables, and slow-motion close-ups of lemon zest. It was soft power disguised as home cooking. But softness didn't shield her from scrutiny. Critics pounced before the show even aired, labeling it pretentious and branding Meghan's attempt at relatability as curated fantasy. They weren't reviewing the show, they were reviewing her. Her intentions, her sincerity, her right to build anything after walking away from royalty. And the biggest question floating around, would anyone actually watch? When the initial viewership numbers came in, they were underwhelming. Not terrible, but far from viral. For a celebrity of Meghan's magnitude, expectations were sky high, and Netflix had quietly hoped this would be her comeback moment. Instead, it became another source of division. Was the show a flop? Or was it simply misunderstood? Supporters argued the content wasn't made for shock value. It was made to feel safe, comforting, even healing. Meghan was reclaiming domestic life, not glamorizing it. It wasn't about showbiz. It was about showing peace. But detractors saw something else entirely. A failed attempt to pivot into the Martha Stewart lane without paying her dues. Still, Meghan didn't flinch. In one behind-the-scenes clip, she smiles, hair up, apron on, mixing ingredients with genuine calm. "I've always found peace in small things," she says. Sharing food, growing herbs, making a mess in the kitchen. That's where the joy is. It was a far cry from the high-stakes royal narrative the press had been pushing for years. And maybe that was the problem. The world wanted drama. Meghan gave them dinner. But there's another layer to this. Meghan's appearance in the show wasn't just about branding. It was about visibility. After months of being labeled missing or retreated, she showed up. Not as a duchess, not as a headline, but as herself, or at least a version of herself she was willing to share. She looked peaceful. But peace is rarely profitable. And just when the noise began to quiet, Meghan made another bold move. One that would reshape not just her image, but her entire platform. And this time, she wasn't doing it alone. Number 5, the podcast pivot. Just when critics thought they had Meghan's playbook figured out, home decor, soft lighting, urban-fused tea, the Duchess flipped the script again. This time, she was trading her garden gloves for a microphone. No cameras, no slow zooms, just her voice. Meghan announced her new podcast with Lemonade Media. Archetypes was out, and Confessions of a Good Girl Turned Founder was in. But this wasn't just a new format, it was a new strategy. After being relentlessly framed by headlines, Meghan was ready to control the narrative, one conversation at a time. The concept was sharp. Raw interviews with female entrepreneurs, unfiltered confessions about failure, sacrifice, ambition, and identity. And while it might sound like your average business podcast, Meghan's presence gave it gravity. She wasn't just introducing guests, she was part of the story. And for the first time, she wasn't speaking as a royal or even as a celebrity. She was speaking as a woman trying to build something in the shadow of relentless judgment. But once again, the reaction was split. Supporters saw growth. Meghan was choosing substance over spectacle. She was putting the spotlight on others, especially women who'd been overlooked, underestimated, or boxed in. This was the version of Meghan her fans had always wanted the world to see. Thoughtful, curious, and actually listening. But critics weren't convinced. They questioned the timing, the sponsors, the messaging. Was this really about elevating others, or just another rebrand in disguise? Some accused her of using empathy as strategy, of packaging struggle into a marketable aesthetic. One headline even asked, "Is Meghan turning vulnerability into a business model?" Still, the emotional impact of the first few episodes couldn't be denied. Guests opened up about being dismissed in boardrooms, overlooked in meetings, and told to smile when they wanted to scream. And Meghan responded, not with pre-written lines, but with lived experience. She'd been there, maybe in different rooms, different shoes, but the dismissals felt familiar. The tone in her voice made it real. Then came a chilling quote. When asked how she handled the pressure of building something while under the microscope, Meghan simply said, "I build anyway." No bitterness, no dramatics, just quiet defiance. And that's when the podcast stopped being just a show. It became a statement. But what no one knew yet was that Meghan had one more move planned. One that would take everything, the podcast, the show, the interviews, and wrap it into something tangible. Something you could actually hold in your hands, or taste. Number 6, the rebrand as ever. It started with a jar of jam. Quietly, almost without warning, Meghan Markle launched her new lifestyle brand, American Riviera Orchard. The name alone felt poetic, coastal, aspirational. But the products? Simple. Homemade jam. Fresh, soft branding. A golden label with elegant cursive script. It was understated and delicate. Nothing like the royal theatrics she left behind. At first, people didn't know what to make of it. Was this the next scoop? Another celebrity trying to corner the wellness market? Or was it something deeper, something personal? When Meghan's close friends started posting photos of the jam on Instagram, numbered jars, limited release, a whisper of exclusivity, it became clear this wasn't just a product launch. It was a message. Meghan wasn't coming back with a vengeance. She was coming back with a spoonful of sweetness. But the internet didn't stay sweet for long. Immediately, critics came swinging. Jam, they mocked. After everything, this is what she does. Influencers labeled it out of touch. Commentators speculated it was a soft pivot after failed ventures. And once again, the backlash outpaced the rollout. But beneath the noise, something was happening. The jars? Sold out. The wait list? Growing. And the brand name as ever, now linked to future plans for kitchenware, herbal teas, and home goods, was starting to trend. Not because it was controversial, but because for some, it finally felt human. This wasn't a woman chasing power. It was a woman chasing peace. In interviews and press statements, Meghan tied the brand to moments in her life that felt calm. Baking with her kids, hosting friends, grounding herself in routines that didn't require tiaras or television deals. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't even necessary. It was hers. And for every mocking tweet, there was someone who got it. Women who were tired of being told they had to be loud to be taken seriously. Moms who saw jam as a metaphor for slowing down. Creatives who saw the brand as a soft resistance to the chaos she'd once been trapped in. Still, the skeptics weren't going anywhere. To them, as ever was just another curated identity, another calculated move. But Meghan never promised to please everyone. She only promised to show up. And in this new chapter, she was doing that on her terms. But what no one expected was that all of this, the interviews, the podcast, the jam, was leading to something much bigger. A question far more complicated than a rebrand. A question Meghan couldn't outrun. Number 7, the bigger picture. By now, the pieces were all on the table. The podcast, the Netflix deal, the interviews, the jam. And behind each move, one question lingered like a shadow. Is this Meghan Markle's redemption arc, or just another carefully crafted illusion? From the outside, it looks like a comeback. But for Meghan, it may be something much more personal, a rebuild. After years of being torn apart by the press, misunderstood by a global audience, and cornered by a monarchy that values tradition over individuality, she's not asking for a second chance. She's taking it. But here's where it gets complicated. Even now, everything she does is dissected in real time. If she stays quiet, she's irrelevant. If she speaks, she's attention-seeking. If she builds, she's manipulative. And if she succeeds, well, she must have done it for the wrong reasons. There's no winning when your name alone sparks debate. And yet, she keeps going. Every new project is a gamble. The podcast might inspire millions or fade into the noise. The lifestyle brand might become a household name or a forgotten page in celebrity business history. But to Meghan, the outcome may not be the point anymore. The act of creating, of putting something out into the world without begging for approval, might be the boldest move of all. Still, the question persists. Was she set up to fail? When Meghan first entered the royal fold, expectations were sky-high. She was young, American, biracial, outspoken, and accomplished. But those very traits, celebrated by some, made her a target for others. And when she left, the narrative was rewritten to paint her as the villain. So now, every step forward is viewed through a distorted lens. Is she trying to prove something? Is she still bitter? Is she chasing fame? The reality? Probably none of that. But the speculation never stops. And that's what makes this moment so pivotal. Because maybe this isn't about reclaiming a spotlight, it's about reclaiming peace. Maybe it's not about royal status or brand deals. It's about telling her kids one day, I didn't fold. Meghan Markle is building something. Not to impress, not to retaliate, but to exist freely. Whether it succeeds or not is irrelevant to the story she's writing. Because for the first time in years, she's writing it herself. And if we're really watching closely, this chapter says more about us than it does about her. Meghan didn't ask for permission, she just started building. Love her or not, she's making moves on her own terms. But here's the question. Is this her true comeback, or just the calm before the next storm? Let us know what you think.